I want you to tell me the most memorable video game level you can think of. Is it All Gillied Up from Modern Warfare? The suicide mission in Mass Effect 2? Or maybe it's the companion cube level from Portal? For me, it's the World of Tomorrow or Sapienza from Hitman 2016. Now I can't speak for you guys, but every inch of these levels is burned into my brain, and it's not necessarily because they're good. Because I can remember every agonizingly samey tunnel in Ocarina of Time's Water Temple, and I hate that place. These levels, they're just memorable. What's up with that? A segment or a level that sticks in a player's mind is a very useful thing for a game to have. It's a focusing point that, ideally, condenses the entire experience of playing a game into a single moment that highlights all the best bits. It's also an important ingredient for developing a player's mastery. If a player can intimately understand a given area, its layout and how it all fits together, they can begin to pick it apart from a more abstract perspective and finally begin to consider their role in the level and why things were designed the way they were. There's also the not insignificant benefit of memorable levels being great marketing tools. I know of at least 4 people who were sold on Titanfall 2 because of the time travel level, and one of them was me. Let's actually take a look at Effect and Cause in more detail, because it's a great example of what I think is the key to a memorable level, that being a sense of singular theme. Effect and Cause starts off with you and your robo-buddy investigating a ruined facility that turns out to have messed around with time a bit, causing you to be catapulted between past and present as you try to get around. The bit that makes Effect and Cause stand out though is how the simple addition of the time travel gimmick is used to change the same mechanics you've been using for a few hours now into something new and exciting. The time travel mechanic is what I've elected to call a locus. No, not the big angry grasshoppers, but the mathematical term, meaning the place where multiple lines and curves intersect. You've basically constantly been shooting people, but now you can hop into the other timeline to reposition yourself, or sometimes fight 2 separate battles at once. You've always used the fantastic platforming mechanics, but now you'll also have to jump between timelines in order to make it through safely. By unifying the mechanics around a common idea, they take on a new light and become part of an experience with something concrete to say, and more importantly, with a tangible theme for your brain to grapple with. It's this strong, simple understanding that makes a level memorable. Memorable themes and loci aren't always abstract high-concept ideas, they can also be physical places within a game. All my favourite Legend of Zelda dungeons are built around a single structure that centres your understanding of the level. In Skyward Sword's Ancient Cistern, it's this big moving statue. In Twilight Princess's Arbiter's Grounds, it's this big central room you might recognise from Ocarina of Time. And in A Link to the Past's Hyrule Castle Revisited, it's this corridor filled with baddies you've got to fight through to get to Zelda. And yes, it's also big. Without these central structures to focus your mental map of the dungeon, you'd quickly get disoriented, ruining that feeling of physical mastery the dungeons are built around. Memorable ideas and themes are great ways of hammering home important plot bits, gameplay lessons, or for just marketing your game. But they're also surprisingly handy for developing games too. Look at Rayman Legends, a very good game with an interesting philosophy to level design. When you play through Frog Story, Teensy's in Trouble, or Living Dead Party, you'll notice that they all have a very strong thematic locus in the form of the level's setting, and it's this locus that gets used as an inspiration. Fiesta de los Muertos, for example, has lava-blocking guac, worms that eat through cake, size-changing trumpets, and even luchador wrestlers, all things that evoke an image of Dia de los Muertos, the Mexican festival of the dead. Now, these mechanics would all work fine in isolation and could easily be reskinned to fit in a far more generic setting, but the fact that they all spring from the same source ties the level together in a satisfying way that no other game can really match, and makes the penultimate stage where they all get brought together as well as the musical bonus level a real treat. The aim of Rayman Legends was to be able to, quote, play inside the concept art. And to do this, Ubisoft actually developed a whole new level editor that let them create weird shaped terrain and not be held back by Mario and Sonic's tile-based design. It's fascinating stuff, and there is a link to a talk about it in the description. In the world 20,000 Lums Under the Sea, this gorgeous concept art gets brought to life in the form of this brilliant Jules Verne / James Bond hybrid. A fusion of grand underwater whimsy and spy adventure led to the creation of these sentry enemies, which serve as a mechanical representation of the world's locus. acting as a reference point for how you're interacting with the level, from stealthy sneaking around to breakneck dodging in the awesome elevator fight level, also something that never would have happened without a strong thematic inspiration. You might think that limiting yourself only to things that would fit within your concept art or a limited theme like time travel might make level design harder. In fact, if anything, it leads to better levels in the long run. Chris McEntee, a level designer at Ubisoft who worked on Rayman Legends, says it best: "Constraints don't hold you back from making the perfect idea come to life. Instead, they force the perfect idea out of you. Without enough constraints, you can easily lose direction." This is unfortunately the case in another platformer, Sonic the Hedgehog. While the levels all have a clear and usually very unique theme, very rarely does that theme ever feel like anything more than window dressing. In the stage Dragon Road from Sonic Unleashed, there's bits where you glide across water and jump on these spinny platforms, but the stage itself has a distinctly Chinese aesthetic. While the level segments are fun as individual units, they don't really fit together very well. Same with, say, Speed Highway, filmed in Sonic Generations, because fuck no am I playing Sonic Adventure ever again, I don't hate myself that much. The loop-the-loops and the bit where you run down this building are a great time, but you could reskin this entire level into Green Hill Zone and I'd be none the wiser. It's not that these stages aren't good, but they lack a sense of being, being about something, having an idea that they want the player to understand and learn from beyond the immediacy of gameplay. Maybe Sonic could learn a thing or two from another blue platforming icon, Megaman. In an interview with Kitamura-san, one of the guys behind the original Megaman games, he has this to say about the development process: "It wasn't made according to one mastermind's whims and fancies, it was a melting pot of ideas from different people." In any Mega Man game, the gameplay elements are usually pretty consistent: jumping, shooting, and occasionally riding on cars. It's actually the Robot Masters, the bosses of each level, that are usually the first new additions to each game. Although Kitamura left Capcom before Mega Man could really come into his own, his philosophy endures here. See, the Robot Masters are often sourced from outside of Capcom in stuff like public design competitions, and as such can add some really interesting limitations to the design team. By combining the limits of Mega Man's simple toolset with the theming of the individual Robot Masters, Capcom get to create unique and interesting levels that somehow all feel memorable and like they capture a very specific theme, despite the fact that you're mostly doing the same thing every time. This is stuff like Bounce Man's weird carnival themed stage with this utterly terrifying frog mini-boss, Block Man's cool Aztec theme level, and Torch Man's stage styled after camping in the woods. By going after specific, memorable aesthetics, the Mega Man team can still create interesting, fresh feeling levels, even though they've now got like 6 or 7 fire dudes on their roster. Memorable levels with a strong core theme elevate themselves beyond the sum of their parts, and that big idea can carry the entire gameplay experience if used correctly. As much as the idea of themed worlds gets parodied and mocked, it's a genius little invention. The aesthetic of an environment can be used to create a variety of interesting challenges. Underwater levels offer a new range of movement, and ice levels offer a twist on classic platforming physics. The trick is to make the experience cohesive. Too often, ice physics is slapped onto a level where it doesn't really work, but used correctly, it can add some much needed texture and memorability to an otherwise bland level. No better is this exemplified than in Hitman. Holy shit. I could draw every single one of its now 14 levels out from memory, and so can basically any other player. For those who don't know, each level in Hitman is an intricate puzzle box of interlocking parts that you've got to use to your advantage in order to kill one of many cartoonishly evil bad guys. Each level is based around a single high-concept story idea: a fashion show that hides a black market auction, a sleepy Italian town with a super weapon lab hidden nearby, a futuristic race. You get the picture. These story themes are used to inform and deepen your understanding of the level. In The World of Tomorrow, for example, each route will usually start in the picturesque town of Sapienza, where a detective is looking for one of your targets, a psychologist is preparing to meet with the other one, and a cook is late for work. These story routes will invariably lead you out of the town and towards the mansion, through a gap in this wall, this cliffside path, or even through the sewers. There you'll assassinate your targets before moving into the caves below to shut down the research lab. By having implicit and explicit stories that follow this pattern, each approaching the mansion from different directions, Hitman helps you to build up a complete picture of the level's layout and schedules by basing your knowledge on your own subjective experiences. When you find this cannon in the abandoned tower, you can see it looks out onto a golf course. Using your memory of that time you impersonated Silvio's golf coach to seduce and kill Francesca, you can work out that he'll be exactly in the right spot to get blown up when he takes his lessons. Or because you saw it when you impersonated the detective, you'll know there's a weak wall here that can be blown up for an easy escape route out of the secret lab. The level theme and story forms a locus that centers your understanding and allows you to build up a mental map of the level informed by personal experience, creating not only a sense of mastery but an emotional connection to the level itself. That's what memorable levels are all about, creating a singular, personal link to the game that transcends what you immediately feel when playing it. An understanding of the importance of strong themes is why I've got a lot of time for tiny concept games like The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. The game is about 45 minutes long and has next to no replayability, but damn if it doesn't know exactly what it wants to be, and that is an adorably wholesome game starring an adorably wholesome frog detective. The entire game has a needlepoint focus on creating a very whimsical, funny aesthetic that I've not really seen anywhere else, even if the basic dialogue puzzles it employs to evoke that are pretty run-of-the-mill. Sometimes all it takes is a single memorable level to shake things up or tie things together. Chapter 10 of Fire Emblem Awakening is an emotional gut punch and seriously tricky level against one of the best written throwaway bosses in series history, and Halo 3's Warthog run is a bombastic, action-packed capstone to a landmark FPS trilogy that very quickly went to shit afterwards. These are experiences that have transcended the already great games they are a part of to permanently lodge themselves in the collective gaming consciousness, and it's all because of a strong sense of theme. There's a lot of talk in game design circles about great mechanics or great enemy design, but I feel like there's not quite enough discussion being had about games as complete wholes, as collections of mechanics, story, graphics and challenges all working together to give the player a memorable bit of gameplay that means something personal to them, and that's what I'm trying to uncover. So the next time you're playing a game, try to think about not an individual mechanic or bit of music, but how the entire level works together to communicate an idea, and what that idea actually is. Because I think in finding that locus, you'll be better able to preserve the time you've had with the game for years to come and make it into a memorable experience that will stick around long after you've stopped playing. Hi, thanks for watching. Before I give you the usual spiel about how this show is brought to you by the generous support of my patrons, here's something else you should be aware of. The excellent artist and YouTuber Blackthorn Prod did some awesome fan art of me, as well as some less important people. This is completely great and I absolutely love it to bits. It basically just shows up how terrible of an artist I actually am, so please do send this guy some love. If you want some other people to send some love to, well, how about my top tier supporters, who are Samuel Vanderplatz, Lucas Slack, William Johansson, Ray's dad, Jonathan Kirkinson, Joshua Binswanger, Dirk Jan Karembeld, Patrick Romberg, Alex Deloche, Baxter Heel, Stratager in Ultima, Lunar Eagle 1996, Daniel Metjes, Asaran, Brian Notariani, and Chow. Thank you all for watching, thank you all for your patience with this video, it really should have been out earlier than it was, and stay tuned for the end of year wrap up video, which should be with you soon. Bye!